I know, I'm late on this guy, as per usual, but I wanted to do this review in comparison with the Rise of the Beasts Studio Series Optimus Prime. But it seems like, in my current financial situation, I'm not going to get him for a while, because I have to focus on Kobe now. So, regardless, this guy had a bit of a storm come about him when he came out, simply because he lacked paint. That's the only problem he had. Well, one other problem, I'll get to that when I get to that. But I have just taken to painting this guy. I've added blue where it needs to. I've added red. I've added silver for the smokestack for the side right here. I've added an extra bit of red right there on the front because I just personally like it better that way. I've added silver for the grill. And I think with just a tiny bit more paint, he really pops. And he's worth it. He sits on my Studio Series shelf because I think he's my best stand-in, and I still think he's a good figure. He still poses very well. He has his gun, which is not movie accurate, but I prefer it when they have handheld guns instead of transforming arm guns. Yes, I'm a G1er. Yes, I don't care. Oh yeah, I also got rid of the annoying things that broke up the truck silhouette. I just cut them off. I don't like them. Don't know why they were there. What's really cool is the first part of transformation is you fold up this locking thing, which is actually, it's a port for the weapon to hold in vehicle mode. It's storage. And it's the fifth wheel for towing a trailer. It doesn't come with a trailer, obviously, but it's a... They didn't even do that. They didn't need to do that, but they did. That's really cool in Deluxe. So you flip that around. Then you bring down the feet. And you rotate them up to reveal even more. Again, gray before, but I painted that silver. Then you work on the upper body. Oh yeah, these are supposed to be out in robot mode, or vehicle mode. That's my one problem. They don't floop into place. They can just be moved easily down. So they end up, I don't put them down in vehicle mode on purpose, but they end up just, as I play with him, being knocked down. So yeah, that's how he's supposed to look. And that does look a lot better. So fold those in, flip the legs up, and then you just start, unpeg that, unpeg this, bring these out, flip all of this up on a double hinge, then flip these in. Now you can unpeg the arms, bring them down, flip the fist out, take these things and move them in like that. Then you can rotate the arms out, then shift these back and peg them in. Orient the arms however you want to. Personally, these things bug me. I wish they would kind of like flip in like that or down and then flip in. But that would probably been asking for too much in their budget, considering how little they painted it. Flip the body down, split, and then all I'm going to do is rotate the upper body, and then it's super cool. The head, when the head transforms, you push this panel back here to flip the head out, and then as you pull this panel down, it'll auto-transform the chest. You can do it yourself, but I love that bit of automorph. And if you can deal with the fact that his proportions are a bit different, they're still Optimus Prime proportions, but they're a bit different than how they were in the movie, and they're a bit different to Studio Series 1. This is a very acceptable Optimus Prime. If you paint him, if you add silver to the legs, if you add blue to the feet, if you add just a bit of yellow, the red that he had, pick some bit of this out in silver. I haven't put all of it in silver, but I picked some of the details out in silver. Silver there. I didn't put silver there, but I put silver on the back of his little, like, back of his hand shields, I guess. And he's really cool. He has good shoulders. They don't have the sound wave sort of, trigger happy, I guess, shoulders. And he has full range simply because his shoulder pads don't rotate with his shoulders. They kind of stay in place, which I don't mind that. Go all the way up and around. He has no waist, but he has an upper body rotation for transformation. But his waist does move about that much. And I think that's more realistic Because if you think of how a human moves, obviously a robot will have to move like a human does. But if you want to get him like turning a bit, to like look one way, you can just rotate this as far as it'll go, then rotate the upper body a little bit of the way, and then rotate the head a little bit of the way, and that looks like a more graceful, like realistic turn, like he's flexing, his muscles or his abdomen, if you will. You see, when I turn him back, you see everything shift. That shifts, and then that will shift. My screen will go darker for some reason. There we go. And you see, it looks like he's turning, and flexing his body. Looks really cool. He has that they fixed the knee problem in a different, not knee problem. They fixed the kick problem a different way than the Studio Series did, just by having his hips be part of the legs. They themselves go all the way up. Not all the way up, but, as up as you might need, I think. Get to about there. Full knee bend. Again, he has tons of movement on his feet. You can tilt. And they're big and bulky, so he plants wherever he stands. He has these nice flaps for his hips. And again, as you see all the time, he can bend down, but he also has, if you untransform him a bit of an ab crunch. Not really an ab crunch, but you can use it that way if you want to. I personally like how the smokestacks are shorter here. I just like that proportion's better for him. The head. For, again, the Last Night Bumblebee movie head design for Optimus Prime is amazing. They painted it well. It looks great, even though my camera doesn't want to focus. But it only rotates. And for me, that almost kills the figure. It can look down a bit because of the transformation, but it can't look up at all. And how many poses does Prime look up? You think about it. The he's not alone pose. You can't get him into that pose. He can't look up. The Megatron pose from the movie, or the first movie. You can kind of get him into that pose, but again, he can't. His body should be kind of tilted down a bit more, and he should be looking up. Again, traditional pose, something such as like a superhero landing. This figure can actually get, because of the way the knees, the proportions are, he can actually get into an actual kneeling pose. If you try, not a lot of Transformers can actually do. So he can get into a kneeling pose. He can get his fist almost all the way to the ground, which is close enough for me. Get that other fist back out there. But imagine how much good of a pose that would look if he would actually look up from the other superhero landing pose. He's such a cool figure. And he has so much articulation. And he's almost never limited. But the head, it limits it so much. And it's so upsetting for me that, if it wasn't... The head is the only reason I'm getting Studio Series, honestly. I don't like how the Studio Series compromises the back of the figure. This guy proves you can get the back of Prime, not cab, but the, the back section of his vehicle mode. You can get that to look good. You can do a good Optimus transformation without making the vehicle mode look like crap. And I don't mind this guy's proportions. I don't mind this guy's lack of paint, because, again, I painted it myself. I like that he has an actual gun. If I really wanted to, I could get the upgrade kits, the Studio Series Prime, and just give him the sword from the upgrade kit if I wanted to have swords and stuff, and the axe, stuff like that. But I have to get the Studio Series one. I have to pay the ridiculous scalper prices just because they didn't have to give this guy a ball joint. So I really don't know what the heck happened with their mainline budget. Because really, this guy, it took me, I didn't even paint this guy, honestly. I didn't. I used Sharpie. And he looks great with that. It fills out, especially the red, it just fills out the waist section. It just fills it out, makes it pop, doesn't make it so boring and dumb looking. It costs $5 extra to buy those Sharpies. And I didn't even pay for them because I had them laying around. And I would have paid $5 more for this guy if I had a bit more paint. Not even more paint. I would have paid $5 more for this guy for a ball joint, because I can color him ever I want to. I can paint him myself. But just for the ball joint in the head, I would have paid more money for that. But they didn't do that. So he's a really good figure. I like him, especially if you can't get your hands on the Studio Series one. He's driving up in price now, regardless, because people are evil. But I don't even mind the the silver things on his arms. Prime has that a lot nowadays. They don't get in the way. I ignore them. If they had just given this guy a ball joint, I might even call this the best figure of 2023, but they didn't. He's so posable, but he just cannot utilize all the posability because of that one lack. It's a really good example of how one problem can bring down an entire figure. But yeah, still recommend him, again, if you cannot get your hands on the Studio Series, and if you can find this guy for cheap, for like retail price or less. But otherwise, I'd say probably save for Studio Series, unless you really like this guy's proportions or his transformation, the lack of that, the ugly back end. Because he's still really good, but with Studio Series out there and just the tiny margin of better that the Studio Series has over him, there's no real reason to get this guy unless you just can't get the Studio Series, which is sad. But that's how it is. For me, as someone who is strapped for cash, who just happened to find this guy for retail price at a Walmart and didn't mind, putting the time and the effort to color him the correct way, he's great for me. But he probably isn't that best for a lot of people, to be honest with.